Hey everyone, welcome to Reddit Readout. Today we are checking out Entitled Parents. Story 1. You really slowed things down. Hello. I'm in a weird headspace, so here's a story from my early adult years. This will be a long one. I grew up basically my father's golden child. I used my powers for evil and consistently put my older brother down to elevate myself in my father's eyes. He fed into it, and I basked like a turtle on a log. Imagine being that perfect golden child at 17, when your parents' turbulent marriage dissolves, the only mother you've ever known and your grandmother, father's mother, passing, and the same brother you watched your father in life wear into a nub attempt self-deletion. We also lost our house, twice. Both times, my father told me lies that I ate up to hide the fact that 2008 was a hard year on us all in a lot of ways. I'd moved into apartment with my father after a few more pieces of my life fell apart, resulting in my graduating high school through summer school. He always said he'd take care of everything and to question nothing, so I went with it. Less than 2 years later, my father gets a new job in New York. My brother has turned his life into something out of a Hallmark movie with how beautifully he'd taken it by the horns. My father told him he would pay for him to go to college if he moved with us, and my brother believed him. I barely lasted a month in New York after we'd driven there from our home in Virginia. I missed my friends, and was freshly 18 and hopped up on rent vibes. I ran back to Virginia on a whim, but mostly because I missed the family I made. Also, my mother was there. She spoke to me constantly in New York. I don't want to lay the blame firmly at her feet in this instance. I know I was the one that made the choice to move back. My mother told me she would help me. My friends were encouraging after they heard of my mother's involvement. Who wouldn't trust their mother? I moved back, and everything unraveled pretty quickly. I had no real worldly knowledge, and my mother was freshly divorced and on the prowl. She was always a party girl. I preferred to stay home. She gave me money and let me use her car, but there was never an ounce of warmth. I counted myself lucky at the time. I wasn't desperate for food, and my mother would provide what I couldn't get for myself. So what was the issue? The issue was the same as when I was a little girl. I wanted my mom. When people would watch, she would fawn over my brother and I. When her family would see, she doted. When it was just me, a fat little 8-year-old, I was reminded not to wear a white shirt, as it showed off my rolls. Everything came back to food. I learned to play up the loving daughter when people watched, and felt so happy when I did. She would beam at me, she would tell everyone how proud she was of me. But anyways, she was the same void of emotion she was when I was a kid. Life was overwhelming for a rabid people-pleaser like me. I would get people-please-why advice from her which compounded my issues. It eventually drove me to make a few phone calls after a couple of packs of cigarettes. It led to what most of us can relate to, grippy socks. Smiley face, a week in the grippy sock hop. We have a plan for me. My father and brother send their love. My dad visited twice and attended therapy with mom and I. We decide I'm going to stay with mom, who agrees happily in front of the doctor. But she tells me 2 days later, while doing my hair, that I need to leave. She tells me that I have really slowed things down and caused everyone a lot of stress. I am frozen with shame and can only agree with her. My father had a medical emergency and drove from New York to Philadelphia without having any recollection of doing so. He didn't want to tell me, but my mother did. She informed me that I was a burden on my father in that moment. She told me that I shouldn't feel bad, just do better. So I did. I moved back to New York and started working. I worked at Macy's in the handbags department with dysfunctional equipment and an amazing manager. My brother thrived at a diner, brought home lots of stories and desserts, and quietly quit school to pay my father rent. I had no idea. I ordered us pizza and learned that New York pizza will absolutely demolish anyone's pizza hands down. I built superficial relationships with a crippling fear of letting anyone be burdened by my problems. I don't know where I was going with this. Or why I'm posting this. I won't delete it, 'cause I pretty much just do stuff like this and take whatever comes from it now. This particular phrase has been bouncing in my little brain for long enough. People like Reddit stories, so here's one about my narc mother. You really slowed things down. Story 2. Entitled Parent Ruins Wedding. First time posting here, fair warning, I'm jet lagged and on my cell, so I'm sorry if the writing is not up to par. But I am livid at this super entitled parent that didn't give a shit about ruining a major life moment for almost 90 people. So, yesterday our dear friends got married in the most epic and intimate ceremony. They did allow children at this wedding, however the plan was to have the kids in the balcony space so that if someone needed to take a child out they could. I later confirmed this fact with the bride. Our group gets up to the ceremony and we're seated. We look around and notice we're surrounded in all sides by children under the age of 9. We're all child-free by choice, so we were giving each other a little side-eye, but honestly, most of the kids were really good and their parents were able to non-verbally communicate to them when they needed to shush, and they got it. The ceremony starts and it seemed like all was going to be fine. The groom/bridal party walk in and we were all preparing for the bride when this kid behind us starts loudly whining to his mom to give him his cars. I want my cars, I want my cars. He was so demanding, and instead of her parenting him she starts shuffling through her bag for his toys. Distracting, but whatever, maybe the car will shut him up. Bride walks in and the ceremony starts. It was a beautiful mix of religious traditions and creative additions of things that were meaningful. The entire time this kid is making loud noises and slamming his toys around. I had to cup my ear with my hand to hear the ceremony, and many others were turning around to look and see what the noise was about. Even the bridal party was looking around. Which you would think the mother would notice and get the memo to take her kid out. But no. He gets louder and louder, screaming about his cars or whatever. His mom does nothing. Finally, during the point in the ceremony when the mother of the bride was trying to recite a blessing, a member of our party turned around and told the mom her child was being very disruptive and asked her to take him out. Which I was very grateful for. She huffed and puffed her way out finally, and we think this is over wrong. At the reception this entitled mother stomps up to me. I was in the middle of an important catch-up convo. She demands to know who I am and who my friends were sitting next to me. I told her we're close friends of the bride and groom. She then demands to know our names. I told her, whatever. But then she marches around looking for my friend to ask her to leave, and when she found him starts screaming "fuck you" at him, telling all within earshot that she can't believe the bride and groom would be friends with such terrible people. I walked over and asked her what her real issue was, and she said it was my friend's tone. I told her that it was very disappointing that we missed the blessing because of her disruptive child. She is pointing her finger, waving her palms in my face, saying how it's her right to have her son there with her. Because of all the commotion, a friend of her comes up to see what's going on. The entitled mothers goes on about how we attacked her. And her friend then actually says out loud, "Oh, I left my kid at home," with a chuckle. Then the entitled mother comes back at me with her sass hands and demands to know if I have kids. To which I chuckled and said no, thinking in my head, so that I can avoid shit like this. She then flicked her hand in my face and stomped away. This woman had no business having her child in the main ceremony room. She refused to honor the request to keep the children in the balcony, but also had no parental control like the other people with kids. Like whatever, I'm just a friend, but I know the bridal party was having a hard time trying to concentrate during the ceremony due to this child. The audacity of this parent will forever be seared into the memory of this destination wedding for us. I mean, wow. This woman was top tier. Entitled. TLDR, entitled mother refuses to take disruptive child out of an intimate wedding ceremony, and when someone finally said something she lost her shit. Because you know, she has the right to do whatever she wants at someone else's wedding. What a piece of work. Story 3. Update: my MIL photoshopped my husband's nose on our wedding pictures. Hey dudes, I'm back. Thank you to everyone who took the time to offer me advice on my last post. First of all, I want to clarify that not telling my husband what his mother did was never an option. She wouldn't remove the pictures from her house unless I either told him or threatened her. Had I done the latter, she could use that against me in the future or even imply I agreed with her. Plus, he was bound to find out at some point, and I knew it would be better if it came from me. I asked how to do it, not whether I should. So I sat him down last Saturday and broke the news. I explained what the pictures were and Mill's excuses for them. I also showed him the texts she'd sent me since my visit. The whole conversation, I was calm and straightforward, but made it very clear that not only did Mill's actions completely disgust me, but I never agreed with her about his appearance. He's the most gorgeous man I've ever met, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with his nose. I also made sure to point out that the photoshopped nose made him look like front-facing Phineas from Phineas and Ferb, and Mill needs to get her eyes checked if she really thought it looked good. I thought the news would hurt him, and I was right. He didn't cry or anything, but I could see it in his face. The odd, but common combination of disappointment and acceptance. He knew his mother wouldn't change, but still had some hope. It was almost heartbreaking to watch. But for the first time in a while, he seemed to believe me when I said his nose was normal. He told me that now that he knew just how ridiculous Mill was willing to be, her opinion meant a lot less to him. So even though he's hurt, he feels stronger than ever. As many of you suggested, I told him that he was free to approach the situation however he pleased, but I don't want to be around his mother anymore. Most importantly, I don't want her around our son, or any other kids we might have. Not only because of the guilt-tripping tantrums that have become her standard behavior, but also because of the way she treats the people she's supposed to love. I know she loves her family, but I doubt she knows how love works. If she's willing to treat her sons like this, I fully expect her to be even worse to her grandchildren. In the end, my husband and I decided we're going very LC with Mill until the holidays. Some of his relatives are throwing a party the week before Christmas, and she'll be there. We thought about skipping it, but he has cousins he hasn't seen in years coming for the party. He's been looking forward to seeing them for months, and it doesn't feel fair to let Mill ruin his excitement. After the holidays, we'll decide how to proceed. Regardless, she won't be allowed to see our son at the hospital when he's born. And once we bring him home, she won't be left alone with the baby. It doesn't matter how much she tries to improve, that is not something we're willing to budge on. In spite of everything, my husband doesn't want to cut ties with his mother, and I understand that. Even if he wanted to, he can't go fully NC without cutting off the rest of his maternal family as well, which he is firmly against. What works best for now is to treat her like Domino's Pizza. She exists and that's fine, but we're not getting involved until she actually improves. I also decided to tell some of my own family about this, and everyone I've talked to agrees that Mill went over the line. My father is a narcissist who I'm mostly LC with due to his entitled behavior. Most recently, he tried to make me disinvite his ex from my wedding so he could bring his mistress, and even he was offended on my husband's behalf. And if even my mediocre, respect your elders father thinks your children are right about you being an asshole, you've probably gone too far. We talked to my BIL, and he's the one who informed Mill of our decision. She didn't take the news well. She's now trying to call both me and my husband, and keeps texting apologies and promises to take the pictures down. We're ignoring her. BIL visited her yesterday, and apparently the pictures are gone. She believed that was enough for us to forgive her, but he clarified that there is still a lot of work that needs to be done. Before anyone calls us dramatic, this isn't just about the Photoshop. This is about the damage she's caused in both her sons' lives. I was abused in a similar fashion in my teens by Dad's ex, and I refuse to allow my child to grow up believing he's anything less than beautiful. Same goes for my husband. That's all. Again, thank you guys. That's all for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.